It's podcast day. It's podcast day. Welcome in, friends. Welcome one and all back to the heyBrownBerry YouTube channel. I'm very glad you've decided to join me in my corner of the interwebs. I have several things to share, including more info about what I'm wearing here, and I hope you'll really enjoy this episode. I've put together some pieces to share my making over the past few weeks, and you're very welcome in to join this conversation with me. See you there. Friends, how do you like my headgear? I am in the craft room and getting ready to do some finishing on a crochet project which requires some seaming, and this kind of headset of things with my light and my magnifying glasses is really helpful for tasks like that, so I can see individual stitches. So I've got 2 crochet rectangles. They need to be seamed up along their long edges to make the side body of this simple t-shirt. I have not really done crochet seaming like this before, so I'm following a tutorial by Tony of TL Yarn Crafts. I will link it below. It has several seaming options in it. Tony uses granny squares as examples in the tutorial, so those have some very clean edges, and she gives different options for putting those edges together based on basically what the finished seam is going to look like. My edges are not clean edges because the pattern I've done is primarily a double crochet pattern, and the side stitches they're basically the length of a double crochet stitch. So I'm going to attempt a whip stitch, which that just requires a length of yarn. Tony recommends about 3 times the length of your edge for seaming yarn and a tapestry needle. The great thing about this is that if I start and I do some inches of seaming and I don't like how it looks, I can just pull it out. I'm using this as a way to avoid procrastinating finishing. I really would love to be wearing this short sleeve top because the weather here is calling for that. So we'll see how far I get. I clip my edges together every few inches just to keep all the pieces together. And it's easy to line it up because both front and back of this top are exactly the same stitch pattern. So it's just a matter of lining up these edges in a way that allows me to do a simple over under whip stitch. And I've got a long length to go here, longer than I need just in case, and I'm trying to decide how I start. I think I'm going to start just doing some stitches and not overthink it. Tony's tutorial is great because she talks about ways to be sure that you're not going to get puckering or, overdo it with the seam so that it's not an aesthetically pleasing or a good fitting result. So I'm trying the whip stitch because I feel like it has the most flexibility in terms of me not having very simple kind of chained edge. A very simple chained edge would mean I just have the same kinds of stitches to go through on each side, whereas here I do have the same kinds of stitches, but it's just a little more challenging to line it up, so I think a whip stitch is my best bet. So what I'm realizing is that it actually is easier to do this whip stitch and go according to what the stitches look like and just find a matching stitch on each side. So I was worried that I wouldn't be able to easily kind of line up the stitches, and it's easier than I thought, which is always good. This edge, the seamed edge, looks fine for interior, and I've already checked a couple times that this is what it looks like with the two sides together. The key will be that I have to keep checking that I'm lining up the pattern across the two sides, right? To make sure that that's going to look nice. Still in the craft room, friends. Another project that I'm working on is right in line with my mantra, normalize long-term making. This is a multi-month project for spinning. I'm spinning some Rambouillet fiber. It's part of a project, the outcome of which will be revealed later this year, but the crux of it right now is just doing a lot of spinning with this fiber. This is Rambouillet combed top. If you're not a spinner, that's just one format that fiber comes in order for you to be able to spin it on your wheel or on a spindle. And it essentially means that the fiber has been put through a machine and a line so that all the fibers are laying in one direction. They're all laying parallel to each other. This Rambouillet is light and lustrous. It is a fiber I've had in my stash for quite some time. I got it on D-Stash from someone I met at Vogue Knitting Live several years ago. So here's a closer look at some of this. It's coming up as a really bright white. In real life, it's a bit more cream colored, but yeah, it's very fluffy. I got a big roll of it, several hundred grams, and I've been working my way through it. I have it on the wheel right now. Here it is on the spinning wheel. I'm spinning this with a worsted draft, so kind of compressing some of the air out of it. Rambouillet is a pretty spongy fiber in terms of how it feels even as you're pressing the air out of it. It's kind of marshmallowy and slippery. I like how it is spinning up worsted. This single will be plied up in a little while, but I'd like to fill the bobbin some more. I've been enjoying spinning that several different methods. Woolen spun as well. I've done some of that on my supported spindle. I became a supported spindle spinner this year with some practice. And yeah, so I've got some samples going of the Rambouillet. That's a single that I spun up. I really enjoy that. Oh, that's the sound of my pizza being ready. Homemade pizza is ready. Gotta go. I will be back. Checking in, because that's what I told myself I would do. So I have made some really good progress on a couple of projects. My spinning project, there's background noise because Drew is watching a movie over there, past that wall. I've made progress on a spinning project that I'm feeling really good about. It's part of a project that will come out later this year, but it involves a lot of spinning and a lot of sampling and so on. I'm going to put in a picture here of a collection of samples of Rambouillet that I've spun. I think I've showed that Not sure. This video is being cobbled together at different times, so if I say something that's disjointed, thank you for your understanding. Yeah, so I've spun the Rambouillet, and there's going to be some plying parties around here before too long. I've got several bobbins. These are little storage bobbins with different spinning techniques. Here's one that I'm really proud of because this took me a long time to spin. And I feel very pleased with how even it is. That's a very bright cream white, and I do have intention to dye this. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to dye it before plying. I'm going to ply it first. Get the task done that needs to be done, then move to the rest. And my other project where I've made progress is my crochet top. I'm actually going to hold off on showing you that in progress. I showed you the beginning of seaming that top, and I have finished the side seams and I just need to do the shoulder seams, and I'm going to make some decisions about the sleeves and how to finish those. So once I've done the shoulder seams, I will come back and share with you what that looks like so far, and then maybe talk out loud, brainstorm out loud what I could do for some sleeve finishing. Okay, glad I could check in with you. I hope that wherever you are right now, things are going as well as they can. Thanks for your visit with me in this project roundup. So the next part of my spinning project involves using some Corriedale fiber, and oh, there's a bunny rabbit outside my window. I don't think I'll be able to get him on camera. Usually we say squirrel when we get distracted, but bunny! That's one of the things I love about spring, the rabbits return. Corriedale. So I was sharing with you that I'm moving on to phase 2 of my spinning project, which involves spinning Corriedale. I have quite a bit of Corriedale roving from my friend Carrie, my wool mitten, my friend. And I've got some natural colors and some dyed colors of Corriedale. It's over there, that's why I'm looking over there. And it is calling to me. It is so soft and so airy and fluffy, and I've done a little sample. Actually, I can share this small sample. Spinning samples is now like snacks. I'm into it. This small sample is from some carded roving in a deep chocolate natural brown. Three rabbits have now gone by the window. This in real life has more of a chocolatey color to it. It's a dark brown and I love it. I spun this long draw for a woolen draft to keep all the air in it, which pairs up really nicely with woolen prepped yarn, like a fiber, woolen prepped fiber. So carded fiber and woolen spinning tend to go very well together. Love it. So I look forward to doing more of that. I'm spoiled for choice. I have options in where I want to start with this phase 2 of the project. I am going to do some of the spinning of the Corriedale on my spindle, and I'm going to do it worsted style. So worsted style spinning is going to involve less air, compressing out some more of the air, smoothing out the fiber before I allow twist into the fiber. And I'm doing that on my very classy spindle, my very classy Squid Fiber Co. spindle. I've only started the teeniest bit just to feel it out. That just gave me a sense of what it's like to draft the combed top that I have for Corriedale. And of course, I have from my stash some Corriedale that is undyed from John Arbin. I'm feeling really good about the fact that this long-term project is being spun from stash. So I've got a chunky bit of that here. Time to get my nails done. So I love John Arbin fibers. Some nests I made just fell. This is their combed top. Always super smooth, always drafts beautifully. I've got plenty here. Plenty to play with. But because that looks very similar to what I just spent weeks working on, I'm gonna splash in some color first before I get to this stuff. I'm really grateful that my making is welcoming me back in right now. I've had multiple weeks of 14, sometimes 16-hour work days, lots of computer time, and I'm literally fighting to keep the things that fill me up outside of work in my days and part of my routine. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. It is a struggle most of us have, and working out, spinning, crocheting are the things that are really helping me to sit down and focus when I'm in work mode for the day job, because I know they are waiting to welcome me in. I'll be back with crochet top stuff. Me again, hi. Who else would be here? Oh, Marceline. I'm going to be honest and say that working on this crochet top is motivated by wanting to share it with you and the temperatures outside. I just got back in from an errand, and it's like we skipped spring here in Florida. Temperatures are in the high 80s Fahrenheit. Yeah, high temps. Call for cool cotton t-shirts. So just looking at this, it's really 2 rectangular panels. Seamed up the side. I decided to use a whip stitch seam. I chose the whip stitch because the stitch pattern that I have didn't really lend itself to something like a mattress stitch, and I didn't want a raised seam on the side, so I didn't do like a slip stitch or a single crochet seam. My goal was to get the panels to line up at the side edges. Pretty pleased with that. So I said I would show it to you when it was closer finished, but I figured why not just let you know that my plan for the shoulder seams, so this is the neckline opening, and shoulder seams, I have decided their placement based on trying it on. The shoulder seams I think I will do as a slip stitch seam because, you know, they have the tops of the crochet stitches, which are really easy chains to work into. So I'm going to use my crochet hook and do a slip stitch seam across the shoulders and then try it on again.
It was a far more terrifying thought than Moraine angry. He could imagine her angry. He could not begin to conceive of her afraid. "How I do, mon Deron," Nita said, patting the rolled hair at the back of her neck.
So I'm going to go across the tops of these stitches here using their chains to slip stitch through them to join them. I'm still going to have some weaving in of ends left to do, all part of the finishing. For my slip stitch edge, I'm going under both legs of the chain for each stitch. And the intent is for this to be pretty flat. I am glad that I am able to easily do a crochet based chain here at the shoulder, because it is something I think will reinforce this shoulder seam and, you know, keep the top from sliding off at the neckline. Had to put my glasses on for this one. So far, so good. So there's a bit of a ridge here on this side, but it doesn't show up on the right side of the top that will be facing.
You will know what I tell you and no more. What will you tell me? Zareen demanded. The Aes Sedai smiled. Eat your fish. The meal went on in near silence after that, except for the song.
Do you have a good book on the go? Or my reading friends out there, what are you reading right now? I am listening to the audiobook version of the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. It is a long series, which is kind of comforting because I'm enjoying it, and it's nice to have something sort of like a continuous thread. You know, when you're really into a set of characters and the world that the author has built, it's almost a comfort to know that you'll be able to continue in that space for a long time. I don't even know how many books there are total, a lot. And I'm on book 3. And as an example of how long they are, book 2 in physical form is about 600 plus pages. But I'm still enjoying it. This far into it, I'm really enjoying it. And happy to have something to turn to. I think that's becoming a theme. Projects that I can just turn to when I need to, and stories that I can sink into when I need to. If you got something like that, feel free to share. I know whenever someone asks, what are you reading? And there's space for people to comment, I always go to the comments and look to see if I can find a suggestion for my next read out of what others are sharing and enjoying. So I'm nearly to the end of the first shoulder seam. I'm thankful that the slip stitch was really easy to execute and I didn't pull it tightly on purpose because I didn't want it to pucker. I think that's going to be good. I used removable stitch markers to indicate where I wanted to stop the seam, and leave the neckline opening. Very handy. That way I keep everything even from one side to the other, and it makes it easy to line up the two pieces of the fabric. Good progress so far. Having made garments before and things that require finishing, there's just little things that you learn and try to remember from one project to the other. Like in this case, this is where I marked that I wanted the shoulder seam to end, but because when I try this on, I might change my mind. I might want the neckline more open or less open. I'm going to leave a long thread here, and that way if I need to close up the neckline a little bit more, I can. Just little kindnesses to your future self, rather than trimming the yarn too close and then having to use a whole other piece of yarn to finish. And then there's this trick. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but when you're about to finish off a crochet, and I used to do one more stitch and pull through the yarn, which you can do, or I can also just pull this free and then seam that in a little later. Now that's a lot looser than if I had done one more chain stitch, but that's okay. I can always go back and do a chain stitch there, but what I'll most likely do is just weave this in and be done. On to the other side and we'll have shoulders. Okay, here we go. Absolute first try on after shoulder seams. Right now I'm wearing the top. You can see how unfinished it is. There are strings everywhere. I've still got my marker on that tells me this is the front, but it's already pretty good. I like the width of the neckline, so A+ for the previous pre-shoulder seam try-on, where I decided that this is where the shoulders would stop. I'm actually happy with how much the sleeve kind of comes over the shoulder and falls down. I'll see if I can show you a better view of that. Now some decisions to make. With the seam that I did, there's a bit of a ridge at the top. I don't hate it. And the fact of the matter is, this top is reversible, honestly. So I could wear it seams out or not. Cotton feels nice. Let's take a look at the fit. Two more thumbs up. You'll find that I'm not going to mention a lot about this very specific pattern because, quite honestly, the pattern itself was so simple, but it was also not very well written. And I'm not here to disparage anybody. I will tell you that this is 2 panels of crochet in a simple stitch repeat, seamed together at the sides and the shoulders. And I decided that I was going to make the back piece a little more narrow than the front piece to accomplish this fit, where I don't have a lot of fabric under the arms and I don't have a lot of fabric bagging out in the back, which is what I feel would have happened if I made the 2 pieces identical as called for in the pattern. I didn't like that there were some knitting terms in the crochet pattern. The recommended hook did not match the gauge. After a lot of swatching, figured that out. And I went and looked at some projects on Ravelry where people were all giving same or similar feedback. So if you want to make a top like this and you crochet, you could do it without the use of this particular pattern. But I like the feel of the yarn, and I'm happy with the armhole circumference I chose. Nothing really being exposed there. Neckline feels good. I know that over time cotton relaxes, and you know, I expect that this neckline will open a little bit as I wear it, but for now I'm pretty happy with it. It doesn't feel like it's choking me, which is really important. If I start wearing it and I'm really unhappy with that, I could open this shoulder seam up some more. I'm pleased as punch. Now for the sleeves, as you can see, there's a little bit of ruffling happening. And because the edges are double crochet stitches, they're not straight, you know, they're not blunt stitches. I don't want to lose any of the circumference or much of the circumference if I can help it, because I like how it sits. It's almost like it's not a cap sleeve, but it's a short sleeve. So I'm considering going around the edge with a slip stitch, or even one round of single crochet, which I don't think will pull it in too much. I could use a slightly larger hook to avoid any puckering. I don't know, friends. I'll think about it a little bit. In the meantime, I'm gonna weave in some ends. I'm doing a quick try on after opening this up a little further. I find that the collar's laying even more flat, so I'm very glad I did not fully weave in the ends. I just opened it up a couple more stitches, and I actually like this better. I like the look of this better. Even a few stitches makes a difference. And I've turned it inside out, right side out, who knows? Now the seam, which was raised, is on the inside, and I'm just trying it out to see if I like this look of the shoulder better, and I think I do. I think we're gonna call this the right side. Yeah. Okay, thanks for letting me externally process that. I think I've come to a point that I can be happy with on the sleeve edging here. I've done a single crochet, I've done a round of single crochet. I realize that there's a bit of ruffling at the back of the sleeve, but I'm actually fine with that. I don't find it too distracting, and in fact I like that there's a little bit of room here. Yeah, time to do the other one. So what I did, you can see the difference. This one is not finished yet. What I did is I went around the edge with a single crochet, and I would stitch 4 single crochet and then skip 1 until I got to some of these longer stitches here. So I wouldn't skip any in here. I'm trying to cinch in some of this extra. So in some areas I skip a stitch, and that brings, you know, 2 stitches that are a bit further apart. It brings them together, helps collapse it so you can see the difference. Lots of room, not so much room.
Pictures time?
Yes, it's time for pictures. Let's take her outside for a photo shoot. Finished. I came outside for the best light. All done, friends. Let's see if I can get a full shot. I'm not currently wearing anything underneath it, but that's okay for now. I could wear a camisole or something. Love it with a skirt. Finny. Thank you for joining me on this journey. That's it for this one, friends. Thank you so much for being here for this episode and for sharing my joy in a new finished wearable memory. It feels a relief to have this off the hook and ready to wear out into the world. I hope that wherever you are in your project progress at this point, that it's filling you up, and I hope that I'll see you back here again very soon. See you next time. Bye for now. Mwah.